Under the glistening studio lights and the boisterous sounds of the crowd, the world witnessed something truly jarring, a moment that will never be forgotten in the history of K-pop, perhaps even the history of global entertainment. Jungkook, the golden magnate of BTS, who has been known to be secretive and humble, finally detonated a huge bomb in front of millions of eyes watching The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Who would have thought the evening, which was initially taken for granted, turned into a stage of confessions that destroyed the boundaries of reality between idols and the public, between secrets and reality, between the stage and the house. This is where everything changes. And the army? They are really heavy. That night, the air was heavy even before Jungkook sat in his iconic navy blue upholstered guest chair in the NBC studio. Jimmy Fallon himself seemed more serious than usual, although he occasionally tried to mask his nervousness with his signature jokes. The camera highlights Jungkook's face that looks more mature, his eyes shining sharply as if he had kept something hidden for too long. When Fallon finally uttered the phrase, "You've been through a lot recently, haven't you?" No one expected that the question would be the spark for the most shocking confession in BTS history. Jungkook's smile widened slightly, but his eyes filled with tears. He took a deep breath, then, in a slightly quivering but still firm voice, said, "I think it's time for everyone to know the truth. I've been hiding something for years, and I can't keep doing that. Not to myself, not to the fans." The studio was silent. Jimmy Fallon was stunned. Even the audience, who usually can't help screaming, were frozen by the raw and real power of emotion. Jungkook is not playing drama. This is not a scenario. This is a raw reality that will change things. All this time, Jungkook continued, "There was a part of my life that I never showed to anyone. Not because I wanted to cheat, but because I was afraid. Fear of people's reactions. Fear of what might happen afterwards. But now, I don't want to live in fear anymore." At that moment, social media exploded. The hashtags #JungkookTruth and #WeSupportJungkook started dominating global trending topics before he even finished his next sentence. Armies around the world are on alert. Some cry without knowing for sure what really happened. Others began to speculate. Is it about his departure from BTS? Will he marry secretly? Is this about an internal conflict that so far only sounds vague? But no one was really prepared for the truth that Jungkook then threw out. Not just because of what he said, but because of how deep and far-reaching the consequences of his statement were. "I've had someone in my life all this time. Someone who means a lot. I hid it because I didn't want her to be the target of hate. But now I want to be honest. Because love should not be hidden." Boom. The sentence struck like a sledgehammer into the heart of the army. The atmosphere of the studio turned into a mixture of sacred silence and choked breaths. Jimmy Fallon was completely silent. In fact, for the first time in the show's history, Fallon was unable to respond with a joke. He just said slowly, "Wow, but Jungkook is not finished." And as it turned out, what he revealed that night was not only about love. It's not just about a mysterious woman or a man, which has been hidden from the world. It's much deeper, more complicated, and more emotional than anyone could have imagined. "I live under a lot of pressure," he said. "I once thought about giving up. I've even thought that I don't deserve to be loved just because I can't be perfect as people imagine. But someone saved me. He was always there, even when I wanted to disappear." Tears began to be heard from several corners of the audience. The camera had time to highlight the crying army in the audience, their hands covering their mouths, holding back such great emotions. The studio staff also reportedly delayed commercial breaks for fear of ruining this crucial moment that is so honest and unexpected. Jungkook lowered his head for a moment, then said in a low voice, "His name doesn't matter. But what he gave me, the courage to live, to get back on my feet when I fell, was more than enough. And I want the world to know that the Jungkook you love is not just a product of the music industry. I'm human. I could get hurt. I also need love." An emotional outburst hit the studio and social media. Within seconds, entertainment news websites were broadcasting breaking news. YouTube was flooded with video footage of the confession. TikTok exploded with edits full of tears and hope. Commentators began to speculate who had been accompanying Jungkook secretly. There is a mention of a hype staff. There are also those who dare to mention that the figure is a fellow artist from another label. Even some netizens theorized that maybe the person came from the trainee period, someone who had long been a place to vent. But the controversy flared up when in the next segment, Jungkook said one more thing that really made ARMY have to take a deep breath. I almost quit BTS in 2022. I'm seriously considering it. There are times when I feel like I can't do it anymore. Not because of the members. They're my brothers. Because of the system. Because the pressure is too heavy. Because expectations are constantly haunting. The public really couldn't believe it. All this time, Jungkook looked so happy. But apparently, behind her smile, there was such a deep wound. There was an invisible battle. And that night, in front of Jimmy Fallon, everything was revealed and censored. Without a mask, Jimmy Fallon said, "I had no idea you were going through all that. You're so strong, Jungkook. So strong." Jungkook just nodded. I'm not alone. Many artists, many people who live under the spotlight, also feel this way. And I hope that as I speak tonight, more people dare to express their feelings. Explosions of love and support poured in endlessly from all corners of the world. The artists from home and abroad directly provide support through social media. Some of them even cried while watching. Fans began posting open letters to Jungkook. They stated that they love him more because of that honesty, because of his courage to stand up and say, "I am human." But as always, in the midst of a wave of love, there is also a storm of hatred. Some people immediately questioned HYB's professionalism. They accused the agency of putting too much pressure on the artist for the sake of profit. Some even asked HYB to give an official statement about the mental health of her artists. There were also those who questioned whether Jungkook's confession was part of a grand comeback strategy, although his emotional statement was far from a planned impression. But what is most surprising is when Jungkook hints that this confession is not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter. I'm writing music you've never heard before. Honest music. Music that may be uncomfortable, but I wanted to convey it all through the song. I want you to know who I really am, not just through the imagery, but through every note and every lyric. ARMY immediately assumed that there would be a new solo album that revealed Jungkook's darkest and deepest side. And not just about love, but about struggle, pressure, freedom, even resistance. That Jungkook's big confession that night completely changed the direction of BTS's narrative and himself personally. It is no longer just an idol. He is a man who is fighting for the right to live as himself. And in the midst of a world that often does not forgive, he chose to stand up and say, "Here I am." The atmosphere after the broadcast felt like a silent explosion that stopped time. Although the event in the studio had already been recorded, the effects of Jungkook's confession did not stop there. Outside the studio, dozens of reporters waited with impatient faces,